Just as the frost melts and spring breathes new life into the land, Isabel discovers she's pregnant. But his old fears resurface, and Leo begins to ask hard questions about his past. The peace they've built is tested. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The sun was barely peeking over the hills when Isabel Rivas made her way up the dirt path to Blue Rock Farm. Her heart was pounding in her chest. Her 4-year-old son Leo was asleep in her arms, his little head resting on her shoulder. A single, worn-out bag hung from her other shoulder. "Just a little further," she whispered, more to herself than to her sleeping child. Isabel was exhausted. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her jeans were spotted with mud, and her boots were caked with dirt from walking for what felt like miles. She hadn't slept in over 24 hours. At 27, Isabel had spent most of her adult life running. Running from bad relationships. Running from empty promises. Running to protect Leo. This time was no different, except for where she was running to. The address had been scribbled in her grandmother's old notebook. Blue Rock Farm. Her grandmother had mentioned it years ago, talking about a kind farmer who had helped her when she needed it most. "I don't know if anyone will even be there," Isabel muttered as she approached the farmhouse. It was an old 2-story home with a wide porch and blue shutters. A rocking chair swayed gently in the morning breeze. Isabel took a deep breath and knocked on the door. A few moments passed before the door swung open. A tall man with broad shoulders stood in the doorway. He had light brown hair that curled slightly at the ends and a face that looked like it spent most of its time outdoors. He was wearing a simple flannel shirt and worn jeans. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice deep but gentle. Isabel swallowed hard. She hadn't prepared what to say. "Do you have a place we can rest for the night? We'll be gone by morning." The man's blue eyes studied her face, then looked at the sleeping child in her arms. Without hesitation, he stepped aside. "I'm Cal Bennett," he said. "Come in." Isabel stepped into the warm house, relief washing over her. "I'm Isabel. This is my son Leo. You both look like you could use some rest," Cal said, closing the door behind them, "and maybe some food." "We don't want to be a bother," Isabel said quickly. "Just a place to sleep for the night. We'll be out of your hair by sunrise." Cal shook his head. "Stay. I'll take care of you both." There was something about the way he said it that made Isabel want to cry. It had been so long since anyone had offered to take care of her. Cal showed them to a small bedroom on the first floor. It had a double bed with a patchwork quilt and a window that looked out onto fields of corn. "You can put him down here," Cal said, gesturing to the bed. "Bathroom's just down the hall. I'll make some breakfast." Isabel carefully laid Leo on the bed, covering him with the quilt. The boy stirred but didn't wake up. "Thank you," she said, to Cal, who was already heading toward the kitchen. In the kitchen, Cal moved about with the confidence of someone who knew his way around. He cracked eggs into a bowl and started making coffee. "Your grandmother," Cal said as he worked. "Was her name Rosa?" Isabel's eyes widened in surprise. "Yes. How did you know?" Cal smiled slightly. "My grandfather used to talk about a woman named Rosa who stayed here once. Said she had the saddest eyes he'd ever seen but the strongest spirit." "That sounds like her," Isabel said, a lump forming in her throat. "She passed away last year." "I'm sorry to hear that," Cal replied, his voice sincere. "My grandfather's been gone for 5 years now, left me this farm." "So you run it alone?" Cal nodded. "Just me and a few helpers during harvest season." The smell of coffee filled the kitchen, and Isabel realized how thirsty she was. When Cal handed her a mug, she took it gratefully. "Do you mind if I ask why you're running?" Cal asked, his eyes meeting hers. Isabel tensed. "What makes you think I'm running?" "Most people don't show up at a stranger's door at dawn with a sleeping child and only one bag," he pointed out. "Unless they're running from something." Isabel looked down at her coffee. "It's complicated." "It usually is," Cal said, turning back to the stove. "You don't have to tell me, but you're safe here." Those 3 words, "you're safe here." No, 3 words, "you're safe here," nearly broke her. Isabel had to bite her lip to keep from crying. A small voice from the doorway interrupted the moment. "Mama." Leo stood there, rubbing his eyes with one hand, his favorite stuffed rabbit clutched in the other. "Hey baby," Isabel said, going to him and kneeling down. "Did you have a good sleep?" Leo nodded, then looked curiously at Cal. "Who's that?" "This is Mr. Bennett," Isabel explained. "This is his house, and he's letting us stay here for a little while." Cal crouched down to Leo's level. "You can call me Cal. Are you hungry?" Leo nodded again, more enthusiastically this time. "Good," Cal said with a smile. "Because I'm making pancakes." Leo's eyes lit up with syrup. "Is there any other way to eat pancakes?" Cal asked seriously. That earned him a giggle from Leo, and Isabel felt something loosen in her chest. It had been days since she'd heard her son laugh over breakfast. Isabel watched as Cal chatted easily with Leo, asking him about his favorite colors and animals. The boy, usually shy around strangers, seemed to take to Cal instantly. "I like chickens," Leo declared, his mouth full of pancake. "Well, you're in luck," Cal said. "I have chickens. Would you like to see them after breakfast?" Leo nodded eagerly, looking to Isabel for permission. "Sure," she said. "But don't get too dirty." After they'd eaten, Cal led them out to the chicken coop. Leo squealed with delight as the hens clucked and scratched around the yard. "Can I feed them?" Leo asked, bouncing on his toes. Cal handed him a small container of feed. "Just throw a little bit at a time." Leo carefully scattered the feed, laughing as the chickens rushed to peck at it. Isabel stood back, watching her son. It was the happiest she'd seen him in weeks. "He's a good kid," Cal said, coming to stand beside her. "He is," Isabel agreed. "He deserves better than what I've been able to give him." Cal looked at her. "You got him here, didn't you? That counts for something." Later that day, as Leo napped inside, Isabel sat on the porch with Cal. The air was warm, and the fields stretched out before them, golden in the afternoon sun. "My ex-husband," Isabel said suddenly. "That's who I'm running from." Cal didn't say anything, just waited for her to continue. "He wasn't always bad," Isabel explained, twisting her hands in her lap, "but after Leo was born, he changed. Started drinking more, got angry a lot." "Did he hurt you?" Cal asked, his voice controlled but with an edge to it. Isabel nodded slightly. "Not at first, but eventually yes. I left him 2 years ago, but he keeps finding us. I've moved 3 times in the past year." "How did he find you this time?" "I made the mistake of contacting my sister," Isabel said with a sigh. "I miss my family, you know. But he must have been watching her." Cal was quiet for a moment. "Does he know about this place?" "No," Isabel said firmly. "No one does. I found the address in my grandmother's notebook after she died. I didn't even know if anyone would still be here." "Well," Cal said, "I'm glad I was." Isabel looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. His face was tanned from working outdoors, with small lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled often, though he seemed serious now. "I meant what I said earlier." Cal told her, "You're safe here, both of you." Isabel wanted to believe him, but experience had taught her that safety was temporary at best. "We'll be gone tomorrow," she said. "I don't want to bring trouble to your door." Cal frowned. "Where will you go?" Isabel shrugged. "I'll figure it out. I always do." "And then what?" Cal asked. "You'll keep running until he finds you again." His words stung because they were true. "You don't understand," Isabel said, standing up. "He won't stop looking for us." "I'm not saying it'll be easy," Cal replied, standing to it. "But running hasn't worked so far, has it?" Isabel couldn't argue with that. Every time she thought they were safe, her ex would show up, and they'd have to flee in the middle of the night. "Stay here," Cal said, "at least for a little while. Get your bearings, let Leo rest." Isabel looked toward the house where her son was sleeping peacefully. "I can't pay you," she admitted. "I don't have much money." "I'm not asking for money," Cal said. "But if you want to earn your keep, I could use some help around the farm." Isabel hesitated. It was tempting, so tempting, to stay in this peaceful place where Leo could play and laugh. "Just a few days," she finally agreed. "Then we'll see." Cal nodded, seeming satisfied with that answer. That evening, after Leo was asleep, Isabel stood at the window of their room, looking out at the night sky. Stars dotted the darkness, more stars than she'd seen in a long time. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in," she called softly. Cal entered, carrying a stack of clothes. "These might be big on you, but they're clean," he said, placing them on a chair. "And I found some old toys in the attic that Leo might like." "Thank you," Isabel said, genuinely touched by his thoughtfulness. "You don't have to do all this, I know," Cal replied, "but I want to." Their eyes met, and Isabel felt a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with fear. It caught her off guard. "Good night," Cal said, turning to leave. "Cal," Isabel called after him. "Why are you helping us? You don't even know us." Cal paused. In the doorway, "My grandfather always said that there are 2 kinds of people in the world. Those who turn away when someone needs help and those who don't. I try to be the second kind." With that, he left, closing the door gently behind him. Isabel sat on the edge of the bed, fingering the soft flannel of the shirt Cal had brought her. It had been a long time since she'd met someone kind without an ulterior motive. "Don't get too used to it," she whispered to herself. "We can't stay." But as she lay down beside Leo, listening to his steady breathing, Isabel couldn't help but wonder what it would be like if they could. The next few days fell into an easy rhythm. In the mornings, Cal would make breakfast while Isabel got Leo ready for the day. Then Cal would work in the fields, and Isabel would help with whatever needed doing around the house, washing dishes, doing laundry, or preparing lunch. Leo spent his days following Cal around, asking endless questions about the farm. Cal answered each one patiently, showing Leo how to gather eggs from the chicken coop and explaining why the corn needed water. "You're good with him," Isabel remarked one afternoon as they watched Leo chasing butterflies in the garden. Cal smiled. "He makes it easy. He's curious about everything. He's never had a man in his life who took the time to answer his questions," Isabel said. "His father wasn't interested in being a dad." "Then his father missed out on knowing an amazing kid," Cal replied. On the 4th day, as Isabel was hanging laundry on the line, she noticed her bag had fallen over on the porch, spilling some of its contents. She went to pick it up and saw Cal looking at a photo that had fallen out. It was a picture of Isabel, Leo, and her ex-husband taken when Leo was just a baby. Is this him? Cal asked, his voice neutral. Isabel nodded, taking the photo from him and stuffing it back in the bag. I keep it so I can show people if they need to know who to look out for. Cal's expression darkened. What's his name? Marcus, Isabel said, the name bitter on her tongue. Marcus Rivas. Has he ever tried to take Leo? Isabel's hands trembled slightly as she zipped the bag closed. Once, that's when I knew we had to leave for good. He was drunk, saying Leo needed to be raised by a real man, not a coward like me. Cal's jaw tightened. You're not a coward, Isabel. It takes courage to leave. Sometimes I don't feel very brave, she admitted. Sometimes I just feel tired. Without warning, Cal reached out and took her hand. His palm was warm and rough from work. You are the bravest person I've met in a long time, he said firmly, and you're raising a brave son too. Isabel looked down at their joined hands, unsure how to respond to his touch or his words. The moment was broken by Leo's shout from the garden. Mama, Cal, look at the butterfly I caught. They turned to see Leo running toward them, cupping something gently in his hands. Let's see, Cal said, releasing Isabel's hand and crouching down to Leo's level. As Leo carefully opened his hands to reveal a monarch butterfly, Isabel watched the two of them, their heads bent together in shared wonder. Something stirred in her heart, a feeling she'd almost forgotten. Hope, but hope was dangerous. Hope made you lower your guard. And Isabel couldn't afford to do that. Not with Leo's safety at stake. That night, after a dinner of fried chicken and mashed potatoes that they'd all prepared together, Leo fell asleep on the couch while Cal read him a story. I'll take him to bed, Isabel whispered, moving to pick him up. I can carry him, Cal offered, if that's okay. Isabel nodded, watching as Cal gently lifted Leo into his arms. The boy stirred slightly, then settled against Cal's chest. Still fast asleep, Cal carried Leo to the bedroom and laid him on the bed. He pulled the quilt up over the boy's shoulders, then stepped back as Isabel tucked Leo's stuffed rabbit beside him. He's out cold, Cal said with a smile. He had a big day, Isabel replied. All that running around in the fresh air. They stood there for a moment, watching Leo sleep. I should let you get some rest too, Cal said finally, turning to leave. Actually, Isabel said, surprising herself, would you like some tea first? I'm not that tired yet. Cal's eyes brightened. Sure, tea sounds good. They sat at the kitchen table with steaming mugs of chamomile tea. Through the window, the moon cast a silver glow over the fields. Can I ask you something? Isabel said. Anything, Cal replied. Why are you alone here? You're young, you're kind. She trailed off, embarrassed by the personal nature of the question. Cal didn't seem offended. I was engaged once, he said. About 5 years ago. What happened? She wanted a different life, Cal explained. She didn't want to be a farmer's wife. Said it was too isolated out here, too much work for too little reward. I'm sorry, Isabel said. Cal shrugged. It hurt at the time, but she was right about one thing: this life isn't for everyone. It's quiet, simple. Some people need more. I think it's peaceful, Isabel said. After everything we've been through, peace sounds pretty good. Their eyes met across the table, and something unspoken passed between them. Isabel looked away first, her cheeks warming. We should turn in, she said, standing and taking their empty mugs to the sink. Morning comes early on a farm. That it does, Cal agreed, rising from his chair. Good night, Isabel. Good night, Cal. As she lay in bed that night, Isabel thought about how easy it would be to get used to this life, to Cal's kindness, to the safety of Blue Rock Farm, but she knew better than to get attached. They would have to leave soon, before Marcus somehow tracked them down, before she started to believe they could actually stay, before her growing feelings for Cal made leaving even harder than it already would be. A week passed, and then another. Isabel's just a few days stretched into 2 weeks at Blue Rock Farm. Each morning she told herself they would leave soon. Each night she found another reason to stay. Just until I save a little more money, she would whisper to herself as she watched Leo playing with the chickens or helping Cal water the vegetable garden. The truth was, they were happy here. Leo had stopped having nightmares. He was sleeping through the night for the first time in months, and Isabel was starting to remember what it felt like to not be afraid all the time. One sunny afternoon, Isabel was hanging laundry on the line when she heard Leo's excited voice from the barn. Mama, come see what Cal taught me. Isabel smiled and made her way to the large red barn. Inside she found Cal kneeling beside Leo, both of them with their hands in a bucket of seeds. Show your mum what you learned, Cal encouraged. Leo grabbed a handful of seeds and demonstrated how to scatter them in a wide arc. See, Mama, this is how you plant the corn. Cal says, I'm a natural farmer. Is that so? Isabel said, her heart warming at the pride on her son's face. Cal stood up, brushing dirt from his jeans. He's a quick learner. Takes after his mom. That way. Isabel felt her cheeks flush at the compliment. It was happening more often lately, this flutter in her chest when Cal was near. The warmth that spread through her when he smiled at her. Can I go see the baby goats? Leo asked, already moving toward the pen where Cal kept 2 kid goats. Sure, buddy, Cal said. Just be gentle with them. As Leo scampered off, Cal turned to Isabel. He's really something. Your boy. He is, Isabel agreed, watching Leo carefully pet the small goats. He's been through so much, but he's still so open and loving. Kids are resilient, Cal said, but they need stability. The unspoken question hung in the air between them. How long would Leo have this stability before Isabel decided it was time to run again? I know, Isabel said softly. I'm trying to give him that. Cal stepped closer to her. You know, my offer still stands. You can stay here as long as you need to. Isabel looked up at him, at his kind blue eyes and the sincerity in his face. Why are you doing this for us, Cal? Really? Cal was quiet for a moment, as if considering his words carefully. When my grandfather was alive, he used to tell me stories about the people he'd helped over the years. Said the farm wasn't just meant to grow crops, it was meant to help people grow too. He paused, looking out at the fields visible through the barn door. After he died, I kind of lost sight of that. I've been so focused on just keeping the farm running that I forgot what it was really meant for. His eyes found hers again. Then, you and Leo showed up, and suddenly I remembered. This place was always meant to be more than just my home. It was meant to be a safe haven for people who need one. Isabel's throat tightened with emotion. And that's the only reason. Cal's expression softened. No, he admitted, that's not the only reason. Before he could say more, Leo came running back. Cal, one of the goats ate my shoelace. Cal laughed, the moment between him and Isabel broken. Well, we better get you a new one then. Let's head up to the house. That evening, after dinner, Cal brought out an old radio and set it on the porch table. What are you doing? Isabel asked, as she helped Leo put on his pajamas. Thought we could use a little music, Cal replied, turning the dial until soft country music filled the air. It's a nice night for sitting on the porch. Once Leo was ready for bed, the three of them sat on the porch swing. The evening was warm, with fireflies beginning to dot the darkness beyond the porch light. Look, Mama, Leo pointed excitedly. Lightning, bugs, they're beautiful, aren't they? Isabel said, drawing him onto her lap. Cal watched them with a soft smile. My mom used to say that fireflies were stars that got tired of staying in the sky, so they came down to dance on Earth for a while. I like that, Leo said sleepily, his head resting against Isabel's shoulder. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the swing gently rocking, the music playing softly from the radio. It felt like a moment out of someone else's life, some normal, someone without a past full of fear and running. This is nice, Isabel whispered, not wanting to wake Leo, who had fallen asleep. It is, Cal agreed, his arm stretched along the back of the swing, not quite touching her shoulders. Isabel looked down at her sleeping son, then out at the fireflies dancing in the darkness. I never thought we could have this. Have what? Cal asked. Peace, Isabel said simply. Cal's hand moved from the back of the swing to rest lightly on her shoulder. You deserve it, Isabel, both of you do. She turned to look at him, their faces close in the dim light of the porch. For a moment, Isabel thought he might kiss her. For a moment she wanted him to. Instead, Cal stood up. I should let you put him to bed. It's getting late. Isabel nodded, suddenly embarrassed by her thoughts. Yes, it is. Good night, Cal. Good night, Isabel, as she carried Leo to bed. Isabel scolded herself for even thinking about kissing Cal. She couldn't afford to complicate things, not when they would have to leave eventually. But as the days turned into a full month at Blue Rock Farm, leaving seemed less and less likely. Isabel found work at the local diner in town, waiting tables 3 days a week while Cal watched Leo. The extra money meant she could contribute to the household expenses, which made her feel less like she was taking advantage of Cal's kindness. And then there was the matter of her growing feelings for him, feelings she tried to ignore, but couldn't deny. It wasn't just his kindness, though. That was part of it. It was the way he listened when she spoke. Really listened. It was how he treated Leo, like his opinion mattered. It was the quiet strength he carried, never pushing but always there when needed. One rainy afternoon, Isabel came home from her shift at the diner to find the house empty. Cal, Leo, she called, a flicker of panic rising in her chest. No answer. She checked their bedroom, the living room, the kitchen. No sign of them. Then she heard laughter coming from the barn. Relief flooded through her as she grabbed an umbrella and headed out into the rain. Inside the barn, she found Cal and Leo sitting on hay bales, a small fire burning in the old potbelly stove. They were playing cards, and Leo was giggling as Cal, that made a show of being upset about losing. I can't believe you beat me again, Cal was saying, throwing his cards down in mock frustration. You must be cheating. I'm not cheating, Leo laughed. I'm just better than you. There you are, Isabel said, closing her umbrella. I was worried when I didn't find you in the house. Cal looked up, his face brightening at the sight of her. Hey there, sorry, we should have left a note, but it was raining so hard when Leo got bored, we decided to have a guy's afternoon in the barn. Guy's afternoon, huh? Isabel said, smiling at her son's excited face. Cal's teaching me poker, Leo announced proudly. Isabel raised an eyebrow at Cal. Is he now? With matchsticks, Cal clarified quickly. No real betting, I promise. Isabel laughed. I see. Join us, Mama. Leo patted the hay bale beside him. Isabel sat down, noticing how cozy they had made the space. Besides the cards, there were sandwiches, cookies, and thermoses of what smelled like hot chocolate. I saved you a sandwich, Leo said, handing her a slightly squashed peanut butter and jelly. Thank you, baby, Isabel said, touched by her son's thoughtfulness. They spent the rest of the rainy afternoon in the barn, playing cards and telling stories. When Leo fell asleep, curled up on a pile of clean hay with an old horse blanket over him, Isabel and Cal continued talking in low voices. I got a call from Sheriff Miller today, Cal said, his tone serious. Isabel tensed. What did he want? Just checking in, Cal assured her. He's an old friend of my grandfather's, stops by from time to time. Isabel relaxed slightly, but there was still worry in her eyes. Did you tell him about us? Cal nodded. I did, but not everything, just that your friend's staying with me for a while. Thank you, Isabel said, for not telling him too much. Cal studied her face in the firelight. Isabel, have you thought about getting legal help? A restraining order against Marcus? Isabel sighed. I had one. In Arizona. It didn't stop him. If anything, it made him angrier. What about custody of Leo? Cal asked. Do you have full custody? Yes, Isabel said firmly. That's one thing I made sure of before I left. Marcus signed away his rights. He didn't want the responsibility. That's good, Cal said. That means he has no legal claim to Leo. Legally, no, Isabel agreed. But that hasn't stopped him from trying to take Leo once before. Cal's expression hardened. If he ever shows up here, he won't, Isabel interrupted. He doesn't know about this place. No one does. But even as she said it, Isabel felt a familiar knot of anxiety in her stomach. Marcus had found them before, in places they thought were safe. Later that night, after they'd carried the still sleeping Leo back to the house and tucked him into bed, Isabel found Cal sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. Can't sleep? She asked, taking a seat across from him. Cal shook his head. Just thinking. About what? He looked up at her, his eyes serious. About you and Leo. About how you can't keep running forever. Isabel stiffened. Are you saying we need to leave? No, Cal said quickly. God, no. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying maybe it's time to stop running to stay here with me. Isabel's heart skipped a beat. Cal, hear me out, he said, reaching across the table to take her hand. You've been here for a month now. Leo is happy. You have a job in town. You're building a life here. A temporary life, Isabel reminded him. It doesn't have to be, Cal insisted. This could be your home, Isabel. Yours and Leo's. Isabel pulled her hand away, suddenly afraid of how much she wanted what he was offering. You don't know what you're asking. Marcus is dangerous. If he ever found us here, he would make your life hell too. I'm not afraid of him, Cal said firmly. You should be, Isabel replied. He's hurt people before, not just me. Cal was quiet for a moment. Do you want to stay, Isabel? If Marcus wasn't a factor, would you want to make a life here? The question caught her off guard. Did she want to stay? The answer was yes. Of course it was yes. But wanting had gotten her into trouble before. It doesn't matter what I want, she said finally. I have to think about what's safe for Leo. And you don't think he's safe here? Cal asked, hurt evident in his voice. I think he's safe now, Isabel clarified, but I can't guarantee it will stay that way. Cal stood up, frustration clear on his face. So you're just going to keep running? For how long, Isabel? Until Leo's grown? Until Marcus gives up? What if he never does? Isabel stood to anger and fear mixing in her chest. Don't you think I've asked myself these questions every day, Cal? But I don't have the answers. All I know is that every time I've thought we were safe before, we weren't. They stared at each other across the kitchen, both breathing hard. I'm sorry, Cal said finally, his voice softer. I shouldn't have pushed. It's your decision. Isabel's anger deflated. No, I'm sorry. You've been nothing but kind to us, and I'm acting like you're the enemy. I'm not the enemy, Isabel, Cal said, taking a step toward her. I want to be the opposite of that. Before she could respond, there was a small voice from the doorway. Mama, why are you yelling? They both turned to see Leo standing there in his pajamas, his stuffed rabbit clutched to his chest. We're not yelling, baby, Isabel said, going with you to him and kneeling down. Cal and I were just having a grown-up talk. I'm sorry we woke you. Were you fighting? Leo asked, his lower lip trembling. No, Cal said, coming to kneel beside Isabel. Your mom and I don't fight. We just talk about things sometimes and we have different ideas, but that's okay. Leo looked between them, uncertain. You're not mad at each other? No, Isabel assured him, smoothing his hair. We're not mad. Let's get you back to bed, okay? Cal stood up. How about I make you some warm milk to help you sleep? Leo nodded, already looking calmer. While Cal heated the milk, Isabel sat with Leo at the table, his small hand in hers. I like it here, Mama, Leo said quietly. Cal is nice. Yes, he is, Isabel agreed, her heart aching with the knowledge that she might have to take Leo away. From this place, from Cal. Can we stay? Leo asked, his eyes hopeful. Forever. Before Isabel could answer, Cal returned with a small mug of warm milk. He set it in front of Leo with a gentle smile. Here you go, buddy. Careful, it's hot. Leo took a careful sip, then looked up at Cal with adoration. "Thank you. You're welcome," Cal replied, ruffling the boy's hair. Isabel watched the interaction, her throat tight with emotion. She knew in that moment that leaving would break more than just her heart, it would break Leo's too. After Leo was back in bed, Isabel returned to the kitchen to find Cal washing the few dishes they'd used. "Cal," she said softly. He turned, dish towel still in his hands. "Yes, I'm scared," Isabel admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Cal set down the towel and crossed the room to her. "I know, not just of Marcus," she continued. "I'm scared of staying, of letting myself believe this could be real." Cal took her hands in his. "It is real, Isabel. What we have here, you meet Leo, it's real." Isabel looked up at him, at the sincerity in his face, and felt something inside her begin to crumble the walls she'd built to protect herself, to keep from hoping for too much. "Every time I trusted someone, I ended up running again," she said, echoing the fear that had haunted her for years. "I'm not asking you to trust everyone," Cal said, "just me." He reached up and gently touched her cheek. "I can't chase you if you run, Isabel, but I'll stand here forever if you need someone to come home to." The words broke something loose in Isabel's chest, a sob that she'd been holding back for too long. Cal pulled her into his arms, holding her as she cried. "I don't know how to stop being afraid," she whispered against his shoulder. "You don't have to do it all at once," Cal said, stroking her hair. "Just take it one day at a time and let me help you." Isabel pulled back slightly, looking up at him through her tears. "Why do you care so much?" Cal's eyes were soft as they met hers. "Because somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you, Isabel Rivas. You and that amazing son of yours." The words hung in the air between them, honest and vulnerable. Isabel's heart raced. It had been so long since anyone had loved her, really loved her, not just claimed to while trying to control her. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Cal assured her. "I'm not expecting you to feel the same way. I just wanted you to know." But the thing was, Isabel did feel the same way. She had been falling in love with Cal Bennett from the moment he opened his door to her and Leo that first morning. "I'm afraid to love you," she admitted. "Because if I do, and then we have to leave, ... then we'll figure it out," Cal said firmly. "Together. But please, Isabel, don't leave just because you're scared of staying." Isabel looked into his eyes and saw everything she'd ever wanted: safety, kindness, love. Could she really have this? Could she and Leo really belong here? "With Cal, I need time," she said finally, "to think." Cal nodded, releasing her gently. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." That night, Isabel lay awake long after Leo had fallen asleep beside her. She thought about Cal's words, about his offer of a home, a life together. She thought about Leo asking if they could stay forever, the hope in his young eyes. And for the first time in years, Isabel allowed herself to imagine a future where they weren't running a future at Blue Rock Farm. With Cal, it was a beautiful, terrifying thought. Morning arrived with golden sunlight streaming through the curtains. Isabel opened her eyes to find Leo already awake, playing quietly with his stuffed rabbit at the foot of the bed. "Good morning, baby," she said, her voice still rough with sleep. "Morning, Mama," Leo replied, crawling up to give her a hug. "Is Cal making pancakes today?" Isabel smiled. Pancakes on Sunday morning had become their tradition over the past weeks. "I think so. Why don't you go check?" Leo scrambled off the bed and ran toward the kitchen. Isabel took her time getting up, brushing her hair, and changing into jeans and a simple t-shirt. She could hear Leo's excited chatter and Cal's deep voice responding as they made breakfast together. It sounded like a family. It felt like a family. They thought both warmed and frightened her. Could she really have this? Could she trust it to last? When she entered the kitchen, Cal looked up from the stove and smiled. "Good morning." "Morning," Isabel replied, suddenly shy after their conversation the night before. "Leo tells me he wants blueberry pancakes today," Cal said, seemingly determined to keep things normal between them. "Blueberry sounds perfect," Isabel agreed, grateful for his understanding. They ate breakfast together, and Isabel found herself studying Cal when he wasn't looking. The way his eyes crinkled when he laughed at something Leo said, the gentle way he wiped syrup from Leo's chin, the strength in his hands as he poured more juice into their glasses. She had told him she needed time to think, but in the clear light of morning, Isabel realized she had already made her decision. She wanted to stay. She wanted to give Leo this home, this stability. She wanted to see if what she felt for Cal could grow into something lasting. After breakfast, Cal mentioned he needed to check on a fence in the far field. "Can I come?" Leo asked eagerly. Cal looked to Isabel for permission. She nodded. "Sure, buddy," Cal said, "but it's going to be a bit of a walk. Think your legs can handle it?" "I'm super strong," Leo declared, flexing his small arms. Cal laughed. "That you are? Go put on your boots." As Leo ran to get his boots, Cal turned to Isabel. "You're welcome to join us." "Actually," Isabel said, "I think I'll stay here. I need to make a phone call." Cal's expression turned serious. "Everything okay?" "Yes," Isabel assured him. "Just something I need to do." After Cal and Leo left, Isabel sat at the kitchen table, with her cell phone in hand. She took a deep breath and dialed a number she hadn't called in months. "Sheriff's Department." "How can I help you?" a woman's voice answered. Hi, Isabel said, her heart pounding. I need to speak with someone about getting protection from my ex. 2 hours later, when Cal and Leo returned from their fence-mending expedition, they found Isabel sitting on the porch, a manila folder beside her. Mama, Leo called, running ahead of Cal. We fixed the fence and saw a deer. That's wonderful, baby, Isabel said, pulling him into a hug. Cal approached more slowly, his eyes on the folder. Everything okay? Isabel nodded. Leo, why don't you go wash up? You're covered in dirt. Once Leo was inside, Isabel patted the porch step beside her. Cal sat down, waiting for her to speak. I went to see Sheriff Miller, she said. Cal's eyebrows shot up in surprise. You did? Isabel nodded. I told him everything. About Marcus, about why we're running. He helped me file for a new restraining order here in this county. Isabel, that single quotes s.double quotes. Cal seemed at a loss for words. I'm tired of running, Cal, Isabel admitted. I'm tired of being afraid, and I'm tired of not letting myself have what I want, because I'm scared it will be taken away. Cal's eyes searched her face. What are you saying? Isabel took a deep breath. I'm saying I want to stay here at Blue Rock Farm with you. The hope that bloomed on Cal's face was almost painful too. See, are you sure? I'm terrified, Isabel admitted with a small laugh, but yes, I'm sure. Leo is happy here. I'm happy here. And I think I could love you, Cal Bennett, if I let myself. Cal reached out, taking her hand in his. I already love you, Isabel, you and Leo both. Isabel felt tears welling in her eyes. I've been running so long, I'm not sure I remember how to stay in one place. Then we'll figure it out together, Cal said, his voice firm with conviction. Day by day. He leaned forward, hesitating just a breath away from her lips. Isabel closed the distance between them, kissing him softly. When they broke apart, Cal rested his forehead against hers. We'll make this work, Isabel, I promise. For the first time in years, Isabel let herself believe in a promise. The next few weeks were like something out of a dream Isabel had never dared to have. She, Cal, and Leo settled into a rhythm that felt natural, as if they had always been a family. Isabel continued working at the diner, saving money and making friends in town. Cal worked the farm, with Leo as his faithful shadow. In the evenings, they would have dinner together, play board games, or sit on the porch watching the fireflies. And at night, after Leo was asleep, Isabel would find her way to Cal's room, to his arms, to a kind of love she had never known before, gentle, respectful, and patient. It was a simple life, but to Isabel, who had known so much fear and uncertainty, it was everything. One evening, as they were setting the table for dinner, Leo looked up at Cal and asked innocently, "Can I call you Daddy?" The question stopped Cal in his tracks. He glanced at Isabel, who looked equally surprised. That's a big word, buddy, Cal said, kneeling down to Leo's level. Are you sure that's what you want to call me? Leo nodded solemnly. Tommy at preschool has a daddy who takes him fishing and reads him stories. You do those things with me? Cal's eyes shone with emotion. I'd be honored to be your daddy, Leo. But it's a big job, being someone's dad. I'd have to earn it. You already did, Leo said simply, throwing his arms around Cal's neck. Cal hugged the boy tightly, looking over Leo's shoulder at Isabel. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she was smiling. Later that night, after Leo was asleep, Isabel and Cal sat on the porch swing, her head resting on his shoulder. Are you okay with what Leo asked today? Cal said, breaking the comfortable silence about calling me daddy. Isabel lifted her head to look at him. Are you okay with it? I've never wanted anything more, Cal admitted. But I know it's complicated. I don't want to replace his real father. Isabel sighed. Marcus may be his biological father, but he was never a dad to Leo. He didn't want the job. She reached up to touch Cal's face. You do. That means everything. Cal turned his head to kiss her palm. I love that little boy like he's my own. Isabel, I hope you know that. I do know that, Isabel assured him, and I love you for it. The words came out naturally, as if she'd been saying them all along. Cal's eyes widened slightly. You love me? He asked, a smile spreading across his face. Isabel nodded, suddenly sure. I love you, Cal Bennett. I think I have since that first morning, when you took us in without asking questions. Cal pulled her closer, kissing her deeply. I love you too, Isabel, more than I can say. 2 months after Isabel and Leo had first arrived at Blue Rock Farm, Cal surprised them with a trip to town. He wouldn't tell them where they were going, just that it was a special outing. Is it ice cream? Leo asked from his car seat as they drove down the country road. Better than ice cream, Cal promised. They pulled up outside a small brick building that Isabel recognized as the town hall. She looked at Cal questioningly. What are we doing here? Cal looked suddenly nervous. I have something to ask you. Both of you, actually. He got out of the truck and came around to open Isabel's door, then helped Leo out of his car seat. Taking Isabel's hand, he led them to a bench outside the building. So, Cal began, kneeling in front of them. I've been thinking a lot about our family, Isabel repeated, her heart beginning to race. Cal nodded. You, me, and Leo, we're a family now, aren't we? Yes, Leo answered enthusiastically, making both adults smile. I think so too, Cal said, reaching into his pocket. And I was thinking maybe we could make it official. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a simple but beautiful ring. A small gasp escaped Isabel's lips. Isabel Rivas, Cal said, his voice steady, despite the emotion in his eyes. I know we haven't known each other that long, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I love you, I love Leo, and I want us to be a real family. He took a deep breath. Will you marry me? Isabel stared at the ring, her mind spinning. It was happening so fast, and yet it felt right, like the most natural next step in their story. Say, yes, Mama, Leo urged, bouncing on the bench. Isabel laughed through her tears. Yes, she said, looking into Cal's hopeful blue eyes. Yes, I'll marry you. Cal's face broke into a radiant smile as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he turned to Leo. And you, young man, he said seriously, would you like to be my son? For real? Leo's eyes widened. Can I if your mom agrees? Cal said, looking at Isabel. I'd like to adopt Leo. Make him a Bennett, just like you'll be. Fresh tears sprang to Isabel's eyes. You want to adopt him? More than anything, Cal confirmed. I already love him like he's mine. I want to make it legal so no one can ever question it. Isabel knew what he was really saying, so Marcus could never claim Leo again. Yes, she said, pulling both Cal and Leo into a tight hug. Yes to everything. That night, after a celebration dinner at the one nice restaurant in town, they returned to the farm as an officially engaged family. Leo had fallen asleep on the drive home, and Cal carried him inside and tucked him into bed. When he returned to the living room, he found Isabel standing by the window, looking out at the moonlit farm, twisting her new ring around her finger. Second thoughts? Cal asked softly, coming to stand beside her. Isabel shook her head. No, just ... overwhelmed in a good way. She turned to look at him. It's a lot to take in, you know. 3 months ago, Leo and I were running for our lives, and now, you're home, Cal finished for her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Home, Isabel repeated, leaning back against his chest. I like the sound of that. They stood there for a while, content in their shared silence and the promise of their future together. But life rarely stays perfect for long. The next day, Isabel was at the diner for her afternoon shift when her cell phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. Hello, she answered, stepping into the back room for privacy. Isabel. A woman's voice said, It's me, Maria, your sister. Isabel's blood ran cold. She hadn't spoken to her sister in nearly a year, not since the last time Marcus had found them. Maria, how did you get this number? That's not important, Maria said, her voice urgent. What's important is that Marcus knows where you are. Isabel felt her knees go weak. She leaned against the wall for support. What? How? I don't know, Maria admitted. But he came to my house yesterday, demanding to know where you were. I didn't tell him anything, I swear, but he was acting like he already knew. He said something about a farm. Oh God, Isabel whispered, her mind racing. How had Marcus found out about Blue Rock Farm? Isabel, you need to get out of there, Maria urged. It was ranting about taking Leo, about making you pay for leaving. I have to go, Isabel said, her survival instincts kicking in. Thank you for warning me. She hung up and immediately called Cal, but the call went straight to voicemail. It was probably out in the fields, where cell service was spotty, panic rising in her throat. Isabel ran to the front of the diner. Maggie, I have to go. It's an emergency. The older waitress took one look at Isabel's pale face and nodded. Go, honey. I'll cover for you. Isabel ran to her car and drove as fast as she dared back to the farm. The whole way, her mind was a tornado of fear and regret. Had she been foolish to think she could stop running? Had she put Cal in danger by staying? When she pulled up to the farmhouse, everything looked normal. Cal's truck was parked in its usual spot. Leo's small bicycle was leaning against the porch. Railing. Isabel rushed inside, calling their names. Cal, Leo, we're in here. Cal's voice came from the kitchen, sounding calm and normal. Isabel hurried to the kitchen and stopped short in the doorway. Cal and Leo were sitting at the table with a coloring book spread out between them. They both looked up with smiles that faded when they saw her face. Isabel, what's wrong? Cal asked, standing immediately. We need to go, Isabel said, her voice shaking now. My sister just called. Marcus knows where we are. Cal's expression hardened. Did she say how he found out? Isabel shook her head. No, but it doesn't matter. We need to leave before he gets here, Mama. Leo's small voice broke through her panic. Are we running away again? The question, so innocent and yet so heartbreaking, made Isabel pause. She looked at her son's confused face, then at Cal's steady gaze. I don't think we should run, Cal said quietly. Not this time. Cal, you don't understand, Isabel insisted. Marcus is dangerous. I know he is, Cal replied. But we've done everything right, Isabel. We have the restraining order. Sheriff Miller knows the situation. Running now would just mean starting over somewhere else, always looking over your shoulder. He stepped closer, taking her trembling hands in his. We're a family now. We face this together. Isabel looked into his eyes, wanting desperately to believe him. I'm scared, Cal. Not for me, but for you and Leo. I'm scared too, Cal admitted. But I'm more scared of losing you both. Of Leo growing up always running. always afraid. Leo slid off his chair and came to wrap his arms around Isabel's legs. I don't want to go, Mama, I want to stay with Cal. Isabel felt tears burning her eyes. She had promised herself she would never let Marcus find them again, never put Leo in danger. But hadn't she also promised to stop running? To give Leo a stable home? We should at least call Sheriff Miller, she said finally. Let him know what's happening. Cal nodded, already reaching for the phone. Good idea. After speaking with the sheriff, who promised to send a deputy to patrol the area, Cal and Isabel sat down with Leo. Listen, buddy, Cal said gently. We might have a visitor who isn't very nice. If he comes here, I want you to go to your special hiding place. Remember where that is? Leo nodded solemnly. They had shown him the small closet under the stairs a few weeks ago, just in case. And don't come out until Mama or I come to get you, Cal continued. Can you do that? Yes, Leo said, his small face serious. Is it the bad man from before? Isabel's heart clenched. It might be, baby, but you don't need to worry. Cal and I will take care of everything. That night, they locked all the doors and windows. Cal brought his shotgun down from the rack in his bedroom not to use, he assured Isabel, but to show they were serious if Marcus did show up. Isabel barely slept, jumping at every sound. Cal lay beside her, one arm protectively around her waist. Try to rest, he murmured against her hair. We're safe. But Isabel couldn't shake the feeling that their perfect life was about to shatter. Morning came with no sign of Marcus, as the deputy had reported no suspicious activity during the night. Isabel began to wonder if Maria had been wrong, if Marcus had been bluffing. She was in the kitchen making coffee when she heard the sound of a car coming up the drive. Peering through the window, she saw an unfamiliar pickup truck parking next to Cal's. Cal, she called, her voice tight with fear. Cal was beside her in an instant, looking out the window. Is that him? Isabel nodded, unable to speak as she watched Marcus step out of the truck. He looked thinner than she remembered, his face harder, his movements jerky with barely contained anger. Get Leo to the hiding place, Cal said, his voice calm but firm. I'll talk to him. Cal, no. Isabel, Cal cut her off gently. We agreed. No more running. Trust me, trust me. Those two simple words hung in the air between them. Isabel nodded. I'll get Leo. She found her son in the living room, already sensing the tension in the house. Leo, remember what we talked about? I need you to go to your hiding place now. Is it the bad man? Leo asked, his eyes wide with fear. Yes, baby, it is. But Cal and I will handle it. You just need to stay safe, okay? Leo nodded and hurried to the closet under the stairs. Isabel helped him inside, gave him his stuffed rabbit, and kissed his forehead. Stay quiet, no matter what you hear. I love you. Love you too, Mama, Leo whispered. Isabel closed the door and turned to find Cal waiting for her, the shotgun resting in the crook of his arm. Ready? He asked. Isabel took a deep breath and nodded. Ready. Together they stepped onto the porch just as Marcus reached the bottom of the steps. Well, Marcus said, his voice as cold as Isabel remembered. Looks like you found yourself a new man, Isabel. Isabel felt Cal stiffen beside her, but his voice remained steady. Mr. Rivas, you're trespassing on private property. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Marcus laughed, an ugly sound. Is that right? And who the hell are you? I'm Cal Bennett. This is my farm, and Isabel and Leo are my family now. Marcus's face darkened with rage. Leo is my son. No, he's not, Isabel said, finding her voice at last. You signed away your rights. You have no claim to him. I want to see him, Marcus demanded. Taking a step forward, Cal raised the shotgun slightly, not pointing it at Marcus but making it clear he had it. That's not going to happen. There's a restraining order against you, Mr. Rivas. You need to get back in your truck and leave. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Or what? You'll shoot me. I'll defend my family if I have to, Cal said calmly. But I'd rather not. The sheriff is already on his way. As if on cue, the sound of a siren wailed in the distance. Marcus's head whipped around, his face a mask of fury and frustration. This isn't over, he spat. That's my boy in there, and I'm not leaving without him. Yes, you are, Isabel said, stepping forward despite her fear. You never wanted Leo. You never cared about him. The only reason you're here is to hurt me. Marcus glared at her, his hands balling into fists. You think you can just take my kid and play house with some farmer? I'll see you both in court. Go ahead, Cal said. We have the legal papers, the restraining order, and witnesses to your behavior. You won't win, Mr. Rivas. The siren was getting closer. Marcus looked from Cal to Isabel, then back to the road. This isn't over, he repeated, backing toward his truck. You'll regret this, Isabel. Both of you will. They watched as he got into his truck and peeled away, gravel flying just as he disappeared down the road. Sheriff Miller's car came into view. Isabel's knees finally gave out, and she sank onto the porch steps. Cal set down the shotgun and sat beside her, pulling her into his arms. It's okay, he murmured. He's gone. We're safe. The sheriff pulled up and got out of his car. Was that him? Marcus Rivas. Cal nodded. He just left. Threatened to take Leo, said he'd see us in court. Sheriff Miller frowned. I'll put out an alert for his vehicle. Did he threaten violence? Not directly, Isabel said, her voice shaky. But I know him. He won't give up eyes. Well, he'll have a hard time getting past the restraining order, the sheriff assured her. And now that we know he's in the area, we'll keep an eye out. After taking their statement, Sheriff Miller left, promising to increase patrols near the farm for the next few days. Isabel went to get Leo from his hiding place. The boy was curled up in a tight ball, clutching his rabbit. Is he gone, Mama? Leo asked as she opened the door. Yes, baby, he's gone, Isabel assured him, gathering him into her arms. And you were so brave. Leo held onto her tightly. Is he going to take me away? No, Isabel said firmly. Never. You belong here with me and Cal. She carried Leo to the living room, where Cal was waiting. He immediately enveloped both of them in a hug. We're okay, Cal said, kissing the top of Leo's head. We're all okay. But as they sat there together, Isabel couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus's threat was more than just angry words. He would be back, and next time, they might not be so lucky. That night, after Leo was asleep, Isabel stood by the gate with her bag packed. Old habits died hard. She thought maybe running was still the only way to protect the people she loved. Cal found her there, silent in the moonlight. You're leaving, he said. It wasn't a question. Isabel couldn't look at him. You saw him today, Cal. He won't stop. He'll keep coming back. And next time he might bring a gun instead of just threats. So that's it, Cal asked, his voice tight with emotion. You're just going to run again. What about Leo? What about us? I'm doing this for Leo, Isabel insisted. For you two, you've been too kind. We don't belong here. Cal stepped closer, his face illuminated by the moonlight. That's where you're wrong, Isabel. You belong exactly where someone sees you. I see you, and I see a future. The words struck Isabel to her core. But what if he comes back? Then we'll face him again, Cal said simply. Together, as a family. I'm so afraid, Isabel whispered, tears streaming down her face. I know, Cal said, taking her hands in his. But you're also brave. Brave enough to stop running, brave enough to stay and fight for the life you deserve. Isabel looked into his eyes and saw the future he was offering, not a perfect one. Not one without challenges, but one filled with love and support and the promise that she would never have to face those challenges. Alone, she dropped the bag. She walked to him, heart trembling, and said, Then teach me how to stay. Cal wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. Every day, he promised, for the rest of our lives. From the porch, a small voice called out, Mama Cal. They turned to see Leo standing there in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes sleepily. Come here, buddy, Cal called, opening one arm while keeping the other around Isabel. Leo ran to them, and Cal lifted him up, bringing him into their embrace. The three of them stood there in the moonlight, holding onto each other. Are we still a family? Leo asked, his voice small. Yes, Isabel and Cal said together. The strongest kind, Cal added. The kind that faces scary things together. Leo smiled, resting his head on Cal's shoulder. Good. I like our family. Isabel looked at her son, at the man holding him at the farm that had become their sanctuary, and knew with absolute certainty that she was done running. This was where they belonged. This was home. 2 weeks passed with no sign of Marcus. The extra police patrols gradually decreased, and life at Blue Rock Farm began to return to normal. Isabel, Cal, and Leo fell back into their daily routines, though Isabel couldn't help looking over her shoulder more often than before. Do you think he's really gone? She asked Cal one evening as they sat on the porch, watching Leo play with the farm's new puppy, a golden retriever they'd adopted from the local shelter. Cal squeezed her hand. I don't know, but we can't put our lives on hold waiting for him to come back. He was right, of course. They had a wedding to plan, adoption papers to file, a future to build together. Isabel refused to let Marcus's threat hang over them like a dark cloud. You're right, she said, leaning her head on Cal's shoulder. We've got too much to look forward to. The town's small chapel was booked for the first Saturday in October, just a month away. It would be a simple ceremony, just family and a few friends they'd made in town. Isabel had found a pretty white dress at a boutique in the nearby city, and Maggie from the diner had offered to bake the cake. What do you think about asking Sheriff Miller to be my best man? Cal asked, somewhat hesitantly. He's been a good friend through all of this, and I don't have much family left. Isabel smiled. I think that's perfect. Leo was going to be the ring bearer, a role he took very seriously. He practiced walking slowly down the hallway every day, carrying a small pillow with 2 old rings of Cal's pinned to it. When I carry the real rings, I won't drop them, he promised solemnly, not even if I sneeze. The days grew shorter, the air cooler, and the leaves on the trees surrounding Blue Rock Farm began to turn golden and red. Isabel found herself smiling more, worrying less. Maybe Marcus had given up. Maybe they could finally have the peaceful life they dreamed of. One crisp September morning, Isabel was hanging laundry on the line while Cal and Leo were in town picking up feed for the animals. The farm was quiet except for the occasional cluck of chickens and the gentle whistle of the breeze through the cornstalks. Isabel hummed to herself as she pinned one of Leo's small shirts to the line. She was thinking about the wedding, about the life she and Cal were building together. When a movement at the edge of the property caught her eye, at first, she thought it might be a deer. They often wandered out of the woods this time of year. But as she squinted against the morning sun, her blood ran cold. It was Marcus, moving stealthily along the tree line, trying to approach the house undetected. Isabel dropped the laundry basket and ran inside, her heart pounding in her chest. She locked the door behind her and grabbed the phone, dialing the sheriff's office with trembling fingers. "Sheriff's Department," a voice answered. "This is Isabel Rivas at Blue Rock Farm," Isabel said, trying to keep her voice calm. "Marcus is here. He's on the property, trying to sneak up to the house. Stay inside and lock all doors and windows," the dispatcher instructed. "Sheriff Miller is out on a call, but I'll send Deputy Collins right away." Isabel hung up and quickly moved through the house, making sure all entrances were secured. She then grabbed Cal's shotgun from the cabinet where he kept it locked. Her hands shook as she loaded it the way Cal had shown her. She didn't want to use it, didn't even want to point it at another human being, but she would do whatever it took to protect her family if Marcus broke in before help arrived. From the living room window, Isabel could see Marcus circling the house, trying doors and peering into windows. When he found them all locked, his face contorted with rage. "I know you're in there, Isabel," he shouted, pounding on the front door. "Open up, I just want to talk to my son." Isabel stayed silent, the shotgun held tightly in her hands. She could hear the clock in the kitchen ticking, each second stretching out painfully as she waited for the deputy to arrive. "Isabel," Marcus yelled again, his voice slurring slightly. He'd been drinking. "Don't make me break this door down." She heard a heavy thud as he threw his shoulder against the door. The old wood creaked but held firm. Cal had reinforced all the locks after Marcus's first visit. Another thud, another. The door frame was starting to splinter. Isabel raised the shotgun, aiming it at the door. "I have a gun, Marcus," she called out, her voice stronger than she felt. "The police are on their way. Leave now, or I'll shoot." There was a pause. Then Marcus laughed an ugly, bitter sound. "You don't have the guts, Isabel. You never did." The pounding resumed, more violent now. Isabel's finger hovered near the trigger, her whole body tense with fear and determination. Then, like an answer to a prayer, she heard the sound of a truck, engine coming up the drive. "Cal's truck." "No," she whispered, terror gripping her heart. Leo was with Cal. They were driving right into danger. Marcus heard it too. He stopped his assault on the door and turned toward the sound. Isabel ran to the kitchen window to see Cal's truck pulling up, Leo's small face visible in the passenger seat. "Cal, stay back," she screamed, but the windows were closed and he couldn't hear her. Isabel watched in horror as Cal parked and got out of the truck, immediately spotting Marcus standing on the porch. Cal quickly turned and said something to Leo, who stayed in the truck. Marcus stalked toward Cal, his posture aggressive. "Well, if it isn't the farmer," he sneered. "Come to play hero again." "This is private property," Rivas, Cal said, his voice carrying across the yard. "You're violating a restraining order. Leave now, before you make things worse for yourself." Isabel unlocked the back door and slipped out, staying close to the house as she made her way around to the side, the shotgun still in her hands. She needed to get to Leo, to make sure he was safe. "I'm not leaving without my son," Marcus spat, moving closer to Cal. "He's not your son anymore," Cal replied, standing his ground. "You gave up that right, legally and morally." Marcus lunged forward suddenly, swinging a fist at Cal's face. Cal dodged, but Marcus was quick for a drunk man. His second punch connected with Cal's jaw, sending him staggering backward. Isabel couldn't help crying out. Both men turned toward her voice. Marcus's eyes narrowed when he saw the shotgun in her hands. "So you weren't bluffing," he said, taking a step toward her. Cal recovered and moved between them. "Don't," he warned Marcus. "Just get in your truck and go. The police are on their way." As if to confirm his words, a siren wailed in the distance. Marcus looked from Cal to Isabel, then toward the truck where Leo was watching with wide, frightened eyes. "This isn't over," he growled. "That's my boy, and I'll be back for him." He backed away, stumbling slightly, then turned and ran toward the trees at the edge of the property. By the time Deputy Collins arrived, Marcus was gone. "Are you both okay?" the deputy asked, getting out of his patrol car. Cal nodded, rubbing his jaw where Marcus had hit him. "We're fine." He ran that way, into the woods. While Deputy Collins called for backup to search the area, Isabel went to the truck and opened the door. Leo launched himself into her arms, trembling. "It's okay, baby," she soothed, holding him tight. "The bad man is gone." "He hit Cal," Leo said, his voice muffled against her shoulder. "I know, but Cal is tough," Isabel assured him, carrying him back to where Cal was giving his statement to the deputy. Cal reached out and ruffled Leo's hair. "Hey buddy, nothing to worry about. That guy has a weak punch." Leo lifted his head, studying Cal's face with concern. "Does it hurt?" "Nah," Cal said with a smile that didn't quite hide his wince. "I've been kicked by horses that hit harder after." Deputy Collins left to join the search for Marcus. The three of them went inside the house. Isabel put the shotgun away while Cal made hot chocolate for Leo, trying to restore some normalcy. I think we should go stay in town for a few days, Cal said once Leo was settled in front of the TV with his hot chocolate. Just until they find Marcus. Isabel nodded, the fear she'd been holding at bay finally catching up with her. He's not going to stop, is he? Cal pulled her into a hug. They'll find him, Isabel, and when they do, he'll go to jail for violating the restraining order and for assault. He won't be able to hurt us anymore. Isabel wanted to believe him, needed to believe him. But the look in Marcus's eyes had been wild, desperate. She knew that kind of desperation was dangerous. I'll go pack some things for us, she said, pulling away from Cal's embrace. They spent the next 3 nights at the small inn in town. Sheriff Miller kept them updated on the search for Marcus, but so far there had been no sign of him. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. On the 4th day, Cal insisted they return to the farm. We can't hide forever, he said, and I have animals to take care of. Isabel was reluctant, but she understood the farm was their home, their livelihood. They couldn't abandon it out of fear. Besides, Cal added, Sheriff Miller promised to keep a deputy patrolling the area, and he's loaned us a radio to call for immediate help if needed. So they went home, the 3 of them on high alert, jumping at every unusual sound. Cal installed a new security system, motion-activated lights around the property and stronger locks on all the doors and windows. Slowly, cautiously, they began to resume their normal lives. Isabel returned to her shifts at the diner. Leo went back to preschool. Cal worked the farm, though he kept the shotgun closer than before. The wedding was less than 2 weeks away now. Despite everything, Isabel found herself looking forward to it, clinging to the promise of that day as a symbol of their future together. Do you think we should postpone it? She asked Cal one night as they lay in bed, until they find Marcus. Cal propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at her in the darkness. Do you want to postpone it? Isabel thought about it, then shook her head. No, I don't want to let him control our lives anymore. I want to marry you, Cal Bennett, on the day we planned, in front of everyone we care about. Cal smiled, leaning down to kiss her. That's my brave girl. The night before the wedding, Isabel couldn't sleep. She told herself it was just pre-wedding jitters, but deep down, she knew it was more than that. Marcus was still out there somewhere, a shadow hanging over what should be the happiest day of her life. She slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Cal, and went to check on Leo. Her son was sleeping peacefully, his stuffed rabbit clutched against his chest. Isabel stood in the doorway, watching him breathe, overcome with love and a fierce protectiveness. I won't let him hurt you, she whispered, I promise. Downstairs, Isabel made herself a cup of tea and sat at the kitchen table. The house was quiet, peaceful. Tomorrow she would become Isabel Bennett. Leo would legally become Cal's son. They would be a real family, with papers to prove it. The thought brought a smile to her face, despite her worries. How far they had come, from that first morning when she'd knocked on Cal's door, desperate and afraid. A floorboard creaked upstairs, and moments later, Cal appeared in the kitchen doorway. His hair tousled from sleep. You okay? He asked, coming to sit beside her. Isabel nodded. Just thinking about tomorrow, about how lucky I am to have found you. Cal took her hand, his thumb rubbing circles on her palm. I'm the lucky one. You and Leo, you brought life back to this old farm. To me. They sat together in comfortable silence, sipping tea and watching the night slowly give way to dawn their wedding day. The small chapel was decorated with wildflowers from Blue Rock Farm. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns on the wooden pews and the simple white runner that led to the altar in a small room at the back of the chapel. Isabel stood in her wedding dress, a knee-length white lace gown with cap sleeves. Maggie from the diner was helping her pin a small spray of blue flowers in her hair. You look beautiful, honey, Maggie said, stepping back to admire her work. There was a knock at the door, and Sheriff Miller poked his head in, almost ready. The groom's getting nervous out there, Isabel smiled. Just one more minute. The sheriff nodded and closed the door. Isabel turned to look at herself in the mirror one last time. She hardly recognized the woman staring back at her, this confident, hopeful woman in a white dress. She looked happy. Truly happy. Mama, Leo's voice called from outside the door. Can I come in? Yes, baby, Isabel called back. The door opened, and Leo entered, looking adorable in his little suit, the ring pillow clutched carefully in his hands. His eyes widened when he saw her. Wow, he said. You look like a princess, Mama. Isabel knelt down, careful not to wrinkle her dress, and you look like a very handsome prince. Are you ready to carry those rings? Leo nodded solemnly. I practiced. All morning. I won't drop them, I promise. I know you won't, Isabel said, straightening his little bow tie. Are you excited to become a Bennett today? Yes, Leo said, bouncing on his toes. Cal says after today, my name will be Leo Bennett, just like his. That's right, Isabel confirmed, her heart full. We'll all have the same name. We'll be a real family. We already are a real family, Leo said with the simple wisdom of children. The papers just make it official. Isabel laughed, tears threatening to ruin her makeup. You're absolutely right, baby. Another knock at the door. It's time, Sheriff Miller called. Isabel took a deep breath. Okay, Leo, you go first, just like we practiced. Walk slow and steady. Leo nodded, his face serious with concentration as he turned and left the room. Isabel counted to 30, then followed, Maggie quickly arranging the back of her dress before hurrying ahead to take her seat. The small chapel was full of people friends they'd made in town, Cal's few relatives who had been able to make the trip, and even some of Isabel's regular customers from the diner. But Isabel saw none of them. Her eyes were fixed on Cal, standing at the altar, looking handsome in his suit, his face lighting up as he saw her. Leo was already standing beside him, holding the ring pillow with intense concentration. Sheriff Miller stood on Cal's other side, beaming proudly in his dress uniform. Isabel walked slowly down the aisle, her heart pounding with joy rather than fear. This was right. This was where she belonged. When she reached Cal, he took her hands in his. "You are so beautiful," he whispered. "Dearly beloved," the minister began, "we are gathered here today to join Calvin James Bennett and Isabel Maria Rivas in holy matrimony. Isabel barely heard the words. She was lost in Cal's eyes, in the love she saw reflected there, in the promise of their future together. "Do you, Calvin, take Isabel to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," Cal said, his voice strong and sure. "And do you, Isabel, take Calvin to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do," Isabel replied, tears of joy spilling down her cheeks. They exchanged rings, Cal's hand steady as he slipped the simple gold band onto her finger, hers trembling slightly as she did the same for him. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife," the minister declared. "You may kiss the bride." Cal pulled Isabel into his arms, kissing her tenderly as the small congregation erupted in applause. Leo cheered the loudest, jumping up and down beside them. They turned to face their friends and family. Hand in hand, officially Mr. and Mrs. Bennett. Isabel's heart felt like it might burst with happiness. The reception was held in the town hall, decorated with more wildflowers and twinkling lights. There was food, music, dancing, and so much laughter. Isabel couldn't remember the last time she'd felt so light, so free. As the evening wore on, Cal pulled her aside for a moment of quiet. "I have something for you," he said, taking a small envelope from his pocket. Isabel opened it to find legal papers inside. "What's this? The adoption papers for Leo," Cal explained. "They've been approved. As of today, he's officially Leo Bennett." Fresh tears sprang to Isabel's eyes. "Oh, Cal, this is the best wedding gift you could have given me." Cal wiped away her tears with his thumb. "I promised I'd take care of you both, always." They rejoined the party, sharing their news with their friends. Leo was ecstatic when they told him, running around telling everyone who would listen that his name was Leo Bennett now, and Cal was his dad for real. It was late when they finally said their goodbyes and headed back to the farm. Leo had fallen asleep in the car, worn out from all the excitement. Cal carried him inside and tucked him into bed while Isabel changed out of her wedding dress. When Cal came into their bedroom, he found Isabel standing by the window, looking out at the moonlit farm. Their farm. "What are you thinking about, Mrs. Bennett?" he asked, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "How perfect today was," Isabel replied, leaning back against him. "How lucky I am." Cal kissed the side of her neck. "I'm the lucky one." They stood there for a while, content in their closeness, in the knowledge that they belonged to each other now in every way that mattered. "I was so afraid to stay," Isabel said softly, "to let myself believe we could have this." "I know," Cal said, turning her in his arms to face him. "But you were brave enough to try. And look what happened." Isabel smiled, reaching up to touch his face. "Thank you for teaching me how to stay. Thank you for giving me a family," Cal replied, "for making this house a home again." They fell asleep in each other's arms, husband and wife the first night, with the rest of their lives together. The next morning, Isabel woke to the smell of pancakes. She smiled, stretching lazily in the bed. Cal must be making their traditional Sunday breakfast. She got up, put on her robe, and went downstairs, but it wasn't Cal in the kitchen. It was Leo, standing on a chair at the stove, carefully flipping pancakes while Cal supervised. "Good morning, Mama," Leo called when he saw her. "We're making you breakfast because you're Mrs. Bennett now." "We sure are," Cal agreed, winking at her. "Have a seat, Mrs. Bennett. Your breakfast is almost ready." Isabel sat at the table, watching her husband and son cooking together, her heart so full it felt like it might overflow. This was what happiness felt like. This was what home meant. After breakfast, they went about their day feeding the animals, working in the garden, simply being together as a family. The shadow of Marcus seemed far away on this bright Sunday, the first day of their new life together. That evening, as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat on the porch swing, Leo between them, looking out at the fields of Blue Rock Farm. "Do you think the bad man will come back?" Leo asked suddenly, his small voice serious. Isabel and Cal exchanged a look over his head. "I don't know, buddy," Cal answered honestly. "But if he does, we'll handle it. Together, that's what families do." Leo nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. "I'm glad we're a family." "Me too," Isabel said, kissing the top of his head. "The best family." As darkness fell, they went inside, closing the door on the world outside. In the warm light of their home, Isabel felt a peace she had never known before. She was no longer running, she was home. Weeks turned into months, and there was no sign of Marcus. The local police eventually called off their active search, though they kept his description on file. Isabel began to believe that maybe, just maybe, he had given up. Winter came to Blue Rock Farm, covering the fields in a blanket of white. They celebrated Christmas together, their first as an official family. Leo was beside himself with excitement when he saw the pile of presents under the tree. Santa Kintney shouted, jumping on their bed at 5 in the morning. Cal groaned good-naturedly already. It's still dark outside, buddy. But they got up and followed their excited son downstairs, exchanging sleepy smiles over his head. This was what they had both wanted, these simple, perfect moments as a family. Spring brought new life to the farm. Baby chicks, fresh green shoots in the garden, and a surprise announcement from Isabel. "I'm pregnant," she told Cal one evening, as they sat on the porch watching Leo play with the puppy, who had grown into a gangly adolescent dog. Cal's face lit up with joy. "Really sure?" Isabel nodded, tears of happiness in her eyes. "The doctor confirmed it yesterday. We're having a baby, Cal." Cal pulled her into his arms, kissing her deeply. "I love you so much, Isabel Bennett." "I love you too," she replied, resting her head on his chest. They told Leo that night, explaining that he was going to be a big brother. At first, he was confused, asking where the baby was. But once they explained that the baby was growing in Mama's tummy and would come out when it was ready, he was thrilled. "I'm going to teach the baby everything," he declared. "How to feed the chickens and plant corn and ride a bike." "I'm sure you will, buddy," Cal said, ruffling his hair. "You're going to be the best big brother ever." As Isabel's belly grew rounder with their child, so did their happiness. The farm prospered, their love deepened, and Leo thrived in the stability of their family life. One warm summer evening, as they sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the gathering darkness, Isabel thought about how far they had come. From that desperate morning when she'd arrived at Blue Rock Farm with Leo in her arms and fear in her heart, to this peaceful moment, with Cal's hand resting protectively on her pregnant belly and Leo catching fireflies in a jar nearby. "What are you thinking about?" Cal asked, noticing her contemplative expression. "About fate," Isabel replied. "About whether it was chance or destiny that led us to your door that morning." Cal smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners in the way she loved. "I don't know if it was fate or luck or just your grandmother's good judgment in writing down our address, but I'm grateful for whatever it was." "Me too," Isabel said, leaning against him. "More grateful than I can say." Leo came running up to them, the jar in his hands glowing with captured fireflies. "Look, I got 7. That's amazing, buddy," Cal said. "But remember what we talked about. We have to let them go before we go inside so they can find their families." Leo nodded solemnly. "I know." He carefully opened the jar, watching as the fireflies flew out, tiny points of light disappearing into the darkness. "Bye, fireflies. See you tomorrow." As they tucked Leo into bed that night, Isabel felt a familiar flutter in her belly, their baby moving. She placed Leo's hand on the spot. "Feel that? That's your baby brother or sister saying goodnight." Leo's eyes widened with wonder. "Hi, baby," he whispered to her belly. "I'm your big brother. I love you already." Isabel met Cal's eyes over their son's head, both of them smiling at the pure love in Leo's voice. Later, as they lay in their own bed, Cal's hand resting protectively on Isabel's rounded belly, she thought about how complete their family felt and how it would soon grow by one more. "Are you happy?" Cal asked softly in the darkness. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Isabel replied honestly. "Are you?" "More than I can say," Cal assured her. "You and Leo on now, this little one, you've given me everything I ever wanted." Isabel smiled in the darkness. "You gave us a home, Cal, a place to belong, and you gave this house a soul," Cal replied. "Made it more than just walls and a roof, made it a home." As they drifted off to sleep, Isabel's last thought was one of gratitude for the path that had led her to Blue Rock Farm, for the man who had opened not just his door but his heart to her and Leo, and for the courage she had found to stop running and start living. In the room down the hall, Leo slept peacefully, safe and secure in the knowledge that he was loved, and beneath Isabel's heart, their unborn child grew stronger each day, already part of the family that had been formed not by blood but by choice, by love, by the simple, profound decision to stay outside. The old farmhouse stood solid and welcoming, under the starry sky, its blue shutters now freshly painted, its porch swept clean. Blue Rock Farm, once just a desperate address scribbled in a notebook, now the center of their world, their sanctuary, their home. And as the moon rose higher in the sky, casting its silver light over the sleeping farm, it illuminated not just a house, but a home, not just a family, but a beginning neither of them had ever dared to dream of.